Camera check, chillum check, hip check. Ready go, let's reconnect, I'm focused. Stabilize, trichome overcome. Stabilize, trichomes overcome. My eyes shine just like the sun. So fine, the day's just begun.
What's good? It's Wicked.
This is Maestro.
And today we got the Nugographer, an amazing photographer, an important part of the community, and a lover of all things cannabis. What's up, Tom?
Hello, everybody, and hello to you two wonderful humans. Thank you for having me on your new experience that we're checking out.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
yeah, man. We're super excited about what we have going on. We're going to bring new guests on all the time, and we're really thankful that you took your time out of your day to join us.
We appreciate it. So today in this little go over talk conversation hangout that we're having, we're gonna go over why you do what you do maybe, or some of the things that you see when you go places, or what inspires you to do that, and some of the things about some of the maybe the farms or the people at some of these places and how it reflects and like what they got and what they're doing, and like like maybe there's a story behind what you're doing in the grand big picture. People to see it as something at a time, but maybe the whole project is a bigger picture and stuff like that. Just want to get to know you about that, and also talk a little bit maybe about your new Chillum thing you got going on that I heard about, which sounds
Oh yeah,
awesome.
we'll get into that a little bit after because that's sort of like the new. That's a different. I'll show you what I've got going on. Yeah, it's definitely exciting. A lot of fun. For
Yeah,
sure.
that's cool because
Very
like
nice.
there's like only a few people that are really making the handmade chillums out there that you see, like, so that's really cool.
Yeah, I'll get into so like there's a backstory to that a little bit. There's actually like reason, why and it kind of all goes back to the beginning of why I started this project and how I started this project and kind of how I met you guys and
Start at the beginning. Why the Nugographer?
uh the Nugographer. It's just a funny name, man. And like it sucks because it's hard for people to spell, and I understand. Like I'm dyslexic, and I'm terrible at spelling, so I can understand like the Nugog. Like it's weird, and of course I'm super whatever shadow banned on Instagram and everything, so
Yeah,
no one
we all
sees
are.
my stuff. Yeah, I know we all are for no reason, and that's a whole nother story. And all of myself as well as the other photographers in the industry, at least that I know, it just sucks because there's no reason for it, and we still are out there, and people still hire us. You know what I mean? And like what we're doing, but they're it's a plant, it's a flower. At the end of the day, you know what I mean. And I know, I your past episodes, I do remember someone talking about it. I think it was you, Maestro. That at the end of the day, this is a flower. This is a beautiful plant. I,
Go.
I thought it was a funny name, and it was available. You know what I mean? This day and age, it's really hard to find a name that you like. That whether it's cool, that doesn't really matter.
Right.
If it's like something that is reflective of you, I suppose, like in one way or another, and is available. I had a kid in New York at a show. I'm sure you were there. He was talking about my photographs. He's like, "Oh, you're the Nugographer." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, so that's why I can't get that Instagram name." I'm like, "Yeah, dude. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like,
When you say available, you mean available on Instagram, available as a domain name, or
everything, you know what I mean? Like you like if you're gonna start a business of any sort, and I'm one of those people. I know, Wicked, you kind of have this tendency too to want to start businesses and get going on things and doing projects, and um you really have to Google the name and
yeah,
see what comes up. Do it in quotes, you know what I mean? Make sure you're getting like exactly, make sure that there is no other person that does that, and um, pr- previous to, my past few years focusing more on photography, I've been, a musician. I played in bands since I was, um, I don't know, in my teens, I suppose. And once I guess I got to the point where I was in bands that were gigging, and this was sort of at the beginning of the internet, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, you had to make sure a band wasn't out there that had the name of the band that you wanted. And like, that happens, still to this day. People have a band, and you got to figure out a name for it. It's the same. I mean, it's weird. It's like starting a new family or like a new whole thing. That it's a process in its own. So but it's an important part of the process. Like, as you know, and you both know, like, it becomes sort of like who you are. But you do have to do your due diligence. You know what I mean, and making sure that you're not ripping somebody off, because you don't want to be doing that. Nobody wants to be doing that, and no one wants that to happen to them.
Right. There's some wild band names out there, right?
Yes, there are.
And
I mean,
I feel like that's literally because you have to come up with some crazy name because there's so many bands out there.
plus, as far as like a band goes, like, it doesn't even have to make sense. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's different than like a business.
Like a
You know,
consumer-based business, yeah.
there's no like genius moment where I was like Nugographer, but like,
Yeah.
I tend to like play with words and do shit like that, and it just sounded funny, and I was like, well, I'm starting this new project, and it's a funny name. It if you think about it, it absolutely like describes exactly what I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally perfect. The first time I heard it, I was like, I know exactly what this guy does. I saw your photographs and they were amazing. You've been taking pictures of herb of mine and so many of my friends, our friends, for many years now. Seems
Yeah,
like a long time.
it's so cool too, because going back to when I started this project, you were kind of like the first people that were outside. I had met you before,
Yeah.
but you were sort of the first people way outside of my zone, you know what I mean, that contacted me and were interested in the shoot. And I think it was in New York. Yeah, it was in New York,
Yeah.
because you guys were doing something down there, and I was like, you were like, I don't have much money. This is an opportunity. And the way that I met you guys at the conference, you know what I mean, the Cannabis conference, I went to that on a random phone call, like, hey, we don't have really any money. Like, do you want to come up and do this thing?
Yeah.
And normally, like, I'm like an introvert, and I'm a musician, and I like to just chill and do my thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, like, why don't I go up there and like meet these people and do this thing, like. And then I got up there, and of course it was like all this great herb, and I'm like, oh fuck, this is like what I do. And as well as just the vibe of the people that I met through that, and as well as down in New York at that first show, it switched my thinking, and I realized that sometimes when you're around like the right people, you end up in this conversation where, this is ironic right now because I've been talking for however fucking long, but like, you end up in this like circle of people who are all like pretty intelligent about things, and no one's talking too much. You know what I mean? There's no like weird like arrogance. I mean, there is, in any part of life, and especially in any business, especially in any like business like the one we're in, where there's like a potentially a lot of money and a lot of fame for some people, and which is all cool, and you have to like, going back to like being in a band, you have to like act the part, you know what I mean, if you're gonna be that person, and that is like very, if you're gonna be the guy in the spotlight, you have to be the guy in the spotlight, you know what I mean, and you have to act like the guy in the spotlight. But I was fortunate at the beginning of all of this to not really have any of those people around, you know. And I met you guys, and you hired me to come down there and do that show. Ironically, on the same street that I had played a bunch of shows, like played music, like in these places in Brooklyn. That was at the skate park, which is like right, which is it was so funny, man, because like on that street, I played a sick party, like in some club that's not there anymore because they come and they go, but like it was like a really really sick like DIY, you know, uh, just one of those cool places that I don't think really that New York doesn't really have anymore, that I haven't really seen as much anymore, which is a shame. But it was super ironic that like I was on that street, you know. I was like, fuck,
Yeah.
I'm down here. I'm like in the same spot. And then yeah, meeting you guys and then just seeing that it was like I've always thought that there was no issue with cannabis for since I was young, you know, since I started smoking and or you know, yeah, smoking because that's how I choose to consume. Um, so like I like met these people and started meeting more people, and then I'm like at the show taking photos, and there's just herb everywhere, you know, and I've seen that before. It wasn't like a huge first time experience, and like I don't really get my mind blown by the big vacuum sealed bags of over trimmed like herb. You know what I mean? Like sometimes like you like at certain events there'll be people who are just there to make a lot of money. And like
Yeah.
I don't blame them, not one bit, man, because like you gotta make, dude, if you're making a lot of money selling whatever kind of herb, as long as it's not like doesn't have, chemicals and like all, like as long as it's quality. Like if you're selling like a lot and for cheap or whatever and you're making money, like good for you. Like everyone needs to make a buck, but like just as long as
I feel
as long
like
as
I feel like everybody. I'm not gonna hate on anyone's hustle at all, unless you're
yeah.
hurting people. But I definitely am not for using this plant for only monetary purposes.
Yeah.
Fair. So like I don't know that yeah, I don't know what I think about that, because I try and think outside the box sometimes, like when I'm like of course I agree, like I mostly agree with that like 1,000%, but then I'm like thinking like, well, what if I had a business opportunity, like working with orchids, right? And like I had a business opportunity working with orchids. I don't grow fucking orchids. I've tried, but like I'm terrible at growing orchids. But they all die. Everyone I've ever gotten. The stupid ice cube thing. That's bullshit. Like they need to be in the right soil and all this stuff, which I've done, but they still die. And like, so but I do think that they're beautiful. You know what I mean? And I say I like had money to invest and make money in orchids. You know what I mean? What's the problem with that? Is
I
there one?
I think
No.
I think the problem with that is you're talking about two different things here. You're talking about a
I,
flower. You're talking about a flower that is literally only beautiful and not used for any medicinal or uh,
I know.
or
Look, I know. I am talking. I'm making a broad generalization, but but it kind of comes back full circle into like how I feel about what cannabis is. It's a plant. You know what I mean? And it's a shame that it's a plant that's been stigmatized and is illegal. But at the same time, it's a plant. It's an expensive plant, and I'm just making and I make that comparison a lot just because there's orchids are also like a expensive plant. You know what I mean? Like people, I've worked um, with some wealthy families in my past, and I've seen some pretty cool like orchid rooms. You know what I mean? Like it's rad.
I really feel as though if there was a whole nother segment of the market that was literally only for visuals, there's locates for weddings or events, or they're doing landscapes and no one's actually consuming those products. That's
Yep.
like a whole different thing.
I can't say 1,000%. I'm 99.9% with you. But then there's like this other like point, whatever, even 0.01% of the actual people who are like family or just a decent person, you know what I mean? That have the money to help someone out. But I agree with you as far as like the mass scale that's
Yeah,
able to be like just diluting and destroying the market because of a whole bunch of funds from people who don't give a shit, you know what I mean, and just want to make a lot of money no matter what. And we've all read the stories about grows, and especially now I keep hearing on the news about, like, I guess cartels and also like Chinese growing in California,
yeah.
like up in the
I mean, that's all over the place. That's been all over the place for a long time. I think a lot of it right now is a scare tactic, or so. You might have to tie some
hey
loose ends up.
if a scare tactic is gonna help like get part of that out of here, because that's the bullshit that like re-stigmatizes this plant, is these big money people.
Yeah.
I don't care about the environment. They don't. So like I'm with you. I'm with you.
Now, how that money's utilized and what intent is behind that funding is a whole different thing. I mean, to join a team that has money for a good cause, I'm all about that.
Yo, can I just make a quick? Can I get us back, steer us back on track, because there was a reason for the orchid thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
All right. So like the Nugographer, right? So like I started taking these photos, and then I was doing it because I was interested in it. You know what I mean? I've always had a passion for a plant. I've always been interested in like good bud and different bud, and then as I got to know you guys and kind of expand my palette, quite honestly, like I've never really had a lot of money, so like going to whatever dispensaries and like buying different kinds of herb, like yeah, I would do it, but like I've always just gotten bud, from caregivers locally or regionally, whatever. But then like I started going to these events, taking some photos at the events, getting more bud, and then I don't know like really why I started taking the photos, but once I did, I started realizing that like this flower, right? Like, so check this shit out, man.
Mm.
I don't know that there's another flower in the, and maybe Maestro, you might, in your like super duper mega encyclopedia brain, you might have the answer to this, but I don't believe, or I think that cannabis is the flower with the most variations of any flower on the planet. So like at the next one, there might be orchids. There's a ton of orchids, man. They like, people like breed crazy orchids. That's like a thing, like we know that, you guys know that. And there's like other plants too, but like I got thinking about it and I'm like, man, this is the most flower. Like this is the most varieties of flowers, and they all look different. They're all the same but different.
Yep.
Some are wildly different. Some are insane. Most look similar, but like it's they're all different, and it's just like, to me it's mind blowing, because there's no other plant out there that people have put this much effort in to create different versions of that I
It,
can think of.
it reminds me of the amazing diversity of humans,
For sure, dude.
you know?
For sure. For sure. And well, with humans, I mean, it's like, it's not even controlled, right? Because people don't even know that, like, what kinds of, like, mixing of genes are happening. Like, there's so many genes in every single human that whenever, you know, someone is born, that's a whole nother set. And I mean,
And plants.
but but I don't know, like, as far as like plants go, I don't know. There's another one, you know. So like that's why I always make the, or not always, but I'll make that comparison with the orchid, because it's like mind blowing to me, man, that there's many different, you know, phenotypes, whatever. I mean, you can get into like whatever kind of lingo you want, but let's just be real about it. Types, you know what I mean? There's this many different kinds of cannabis. Each one is a different kind. It's fucking crazy, dude.
It's definitely an unlimited amount, and it's all about human intervention. Without human intervention, there wouldn't be nearly as much variety.
Totally. And that's so like that goes into the project, man. So like this project kind of became um just it I don't know. I don't think I've really taken much of anything off my Instagram page. So like if you went all the way to the bottom, I don't even know it's there. It's probably just like pictures of plants, which
Okay.
is fine. But it kind of like morphed, I think, into this portrait form. That, you know, I know other, you know, there's other photographers obviously that do this as well, and I think there's more coming up every, you know, all the time, which is cool. But for me, you know, these are a portrait of a flower.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. It's not a you know, and I don't, and I'm one of those people who I don't even really believe that, like, I think art is just, I don't think it's anything really special. I think it's just something that somebody does. It's like somebody who's really smart like can do fucking math in their head in 3 seconds. You know what I mean? It's just something that they do. They're not going to be like, oh, I'm really good at math. They're just going to be a math,
Well,
you know?
I can tell you have an amazing eye for photography, and I really love how you just put like, I don't know, I almost call it like a romantic spin on it. It's just like everyone just really pops off the page, and it's not like every part of the photo might not be the most detailed, but it's really like just speaks to me. Your style speaks to me. I really like it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, dude, that's a great way. Like, I couldn't ask for anyone to put it like a romantic way. Like, fuck yeah, dude. It's a portrait of a flower. What's more sexy than that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have a thing for Mary Jane, so
Yeah, I think we all do, but it's and then, you know, the more I did it, and I and started like realizing how many different kinds there are, I was just like, this is mind blowing, and it started just snowballing. You know,
A little bit about like where you've gone and what you've seen, like from different like grow sides to farms, and like
oh,
was there a difference in like maybe the way those people were growing and maybe the type they were growing, and was there commonalities?
sure. So for me, I've traveling for herb has mostly been secondary, right? I can't afford to just go on herb vacations, and I mean, I travel, of course, to take photos for clients, you know, but that's another story. I don't really, you know, I'm not at the level currently that's being flown around to take photos in different parts of the country, world, whatever. Um, that, you know, there are guys that are at that level. Kudos to them. I hope to
yeah,
be there one day. And but whenever I travel, you know, I meet people that are like me. You know, like we all kind of naturally go towards that thing. Like, you know, if I'm traveling and shit, most days it's like legal, recreational, somewhat now. If I'm staying somewhere for the night in a hotel, um, or just if I'm, you know, camping, whatever, I'll like hop on my phone and see what's going on. You know what I mean? If there's a cool event going on, I show up with my camera. I'm like, yo, what's up? And they're like, hey, man, and it's like you're always like meeting like-minded people, you know, and then I mean, I don't think my story is anything really special. I'm more just like interested in checking shit out. But I'm like, hey, I'm here. Like, I'll take some photos. I can throw them on the internet. I can email them to you. Like, do you mind if I like check out this event? And then, like, uh, we all just kind of gravitate towards each other. So like, if I can just show up to an event, or you can, or any of our friends can, make friends right away. Go up, especially if it's an event with some good bud. Um, say what's up and sniff the bud, and especially if you have flower that you're proud of. I know both of you do. I have some amazing flower that is your thing. You bring that, you share that with the community. You know what I mean? No matter where you are, if you're going to an event and you have good bud, and you're a cool person, I don't see it ever being an issue. Like I'll show up in New York City, you know what I mean? Like, I'm the most non-New York City person ever, and I'll show up and it's never like an issue, like it's just smoking bud, having a good time. And so, back to the traveling thing, I'll just go and meet whoever I can, because why not? I like meeting people, and why not meet people that are smoking some good herb at the same time? And then, it's like, then you build your network of friends and homies across the country, whatever, regionally, in your state, doesn't matter. And you build this little community of people that, um, it, for me, like, I live in an area where it's still pretty stigmatized, in the sense that, like, there aren't shops everywhere. Like, in Maine, there's shops everywhere.
Yeah.
In Rhode Island, that's not the case.
Right.
So, it's cool. So yeah, I travel. I've seen a bunch of different types of grows. Fortunately, I'm thinking back, but like, I've only really gone to a couple of sites that were like commercial, that were indoor commercial, like big, facilities. Um, and they were gorgeous. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how else to put it. Like the people that I was working with were super, super chill at these types of facilities. Maybe I was lucky. Maybe everybody at these places is super chill, but I mean, it's very by the book, as you guys know, because you guys have been in the industry a long time. You sign papers when you go in. You have a badge on. You know what I mean? Hairnet, booties, the whole deal.
Yep.
That these you don't mess around, and they don't mess around with their product, and you respect that as and even as a photographer, I make sure my gear is clean. You know what I mean? Before I go into these places, like it's how I would want my spot to be respected.
Yeah, it's like going to the doctor and the bank at the same time or something.
Dude, totally.
Right.
But like, at the same time, it's like with people who are really cool generally.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of outdoor grows that are like pretty big, large scale.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess large scale for out here is relative, right? Because I haven't been to, the West Coast and done the whole Humboldt thing. And I have friends.
And not even Humboldt. There's some other areas like Oklahoma that are even bigger than that.
Oh, totally. Oh, yeah. With some huge like indoor facilities too.
Yeah, indoor, outdoor, greenhouse. I mean, they're just rocking it out there.
Yeah, because there's the space to do it. You know what I mean? Land costs nothing.
The space to do it, but they had an unlimited plant count for quite some time. I think that's kind of dwindling out now.
Yeah, whoever got grandfathered in with that is lucky as all hell. I haven't seen any like industrial shit like that. And quite honestly, like, I guess if I got the opportunity, I'd love to go check it out. But that's not something that I necessarily like seek. Like, for instance, if I'm traveling, just looking on whatever, like, I guess Instagram or Google these days will lead you right to like most events, even if it's like through a back way. Like, you can like Google like cannabis event Columbus,
Yeah.
and like something will come up. You know what I mean? Even if it's from like a year before, you can find out who the event was. Sometimes you have to seek the stuff out, but in my opinion, it's always worth it. And you make friends, and you see places, and you check out different bud. Um, there's definitely some like you were saying, Oklahoma, the rock, and like the Midwest, man, they have some killer herb and hash too, as you may know.
And
Um,
not just the Midwest. I mean, all over the world, there's great growers.
I agree with you,
100%.
1,000,000%. Um, so yeah, in traveling, I've seen a bunch of different types of grows. They've all been cool in their own. Honestly, the most grows I see are like fairly small. Under 20 plants.
You got
Um,
memorable small scale grow experience memories?
honestly, the coolest one that I never got to see it because I met this dude, and this was out in is it Columbia, Missouri, Columbus, wherever, Columbia, I think. And I was at this event out there, and I met this guy, and he's like, "Oh, you got to come check out my grow in the Ozarks." And I was like, "Oh, my mom's side of the family had this like lake house in Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri, which is this fucking gnarly ass party spot that's full of speedboats. If you Google it, it's insane." But I met these guys that are just like chill, like us, like total like Northeast type people who are like backcountry folk. Like not. I don't want to say redneck because like they weren't nearly as redneck as like some of the people I've met from
It's me.
up north. Yeah, hey, we all are in a way. But he showed me pictures. He's like, "Yeah, man, anytime." I gotta write this dude a message because he was like, anytime you gotta come check out my grow. And he's like, I'm in the Ozarks, and immediately I was like, oh, that's so sick because my family was there, and I know like the back way getting to the lake was really cool. And he showed me a picture, and it was like this total upstairs of a barn. You know what I mean? So like maybe 3 foot, 3 foot floor to the eave, and then a long sloped ceiling going up, pretty tall.
Mm.
But it was like the top of a barn full of plants, and it was so sick, dude. Like this, like the way the lights were and everything were hung like rather meticulously. Everything looked really like in order, but then the sides of the building and everything were just like old school. Like it looked like a barn. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that's sick.
and it was, you guys have seen stuff like that here up north, but
Yeah.
for whatever reason, the picture of this grow really stuck out. And that kind of goes along with like some of your discussions from your previous videos about grows. It's like, make do with what space you have. You don't need to have a lot of space. Like some of the coolest grows I've seen have been really, really small. 2 lights, you know what I mean? Some tents, like,
Yeah. Whatever you have time and you can manage yourself or with whoever's helping you, because it's a lot of work to take care of plants. So the bigger you get, the more work it is.
yeah. And also like, there's no reason why you can't. Sometimes less is more when it comes to plants, and that's kind of the way that I see it. I mean, different people have different opinions. I couldn't manage like a garden that's like overcrowded. You know what I mean? Like just like full, like there's no airflow in there, and it doesn't look natural. Like it doesn't look like things should be that way. Um, but I've photographed some rad gardens that are like that, and and they've been in like a 3x3, whatever, scrogged out like all the way, just with like gold is going up, and you're just like, holy shit, man! Like you got a pound of herb in this 3x3 space or more,
Yeah.
and that's and some of those gardens have been the sickest, and it's the intention that people put into those plants. If they're trying to grow 20 plants in a small spot, they're not going to be able to pay as much attention to those 20 as you would be able to 5. And your 5 would probably do a lot better in the long run quality, maybe not as much quantity, especially if you were using salts and you were just trying to like really like get huge plants. But like you're going to get better plants if you do like 5 instead of 20. I guarantee it, in like the space. You may not get as much, but like, but this also goes with growing, from what I've seen, growing with soil. A lot of the hydro gardens that I've seen, especially like some of the bigger places, beautiful plants. There's nothing wrong with them at all, but everything's perfect fed to them, like to do exactly the perfect thing that a plant needs to do. I mean, it's like it is bioengineering, right? Like you're making this plant do exactly the same thing.
Skipping a process for sure. Tom,
And
so you grow, right?
I've dabbled with it a little bit. I know a thing or two. Yeah.
Right on, right
What?
on. So what do you rock? Like you grow in soil or what?
Yeah. So, unlike like maybe you guys, most of my peers, uh, I grew up in a family that was like really against herb in every single sort of way. Like growing up was not even an option. So like I never really cared. I just like smoking,
Right.
which is fine. I got interested in it because of my grow mentor, who was also a caregiver who I met, who was giving me fire herb,
Right
like
on.
the best herb I'd ever had in my life. And he told me a thing or two, you know what I mean, about basically it's one of those things where there's sometimes like a point where your brain clicks, and you just realize, sure, I can do that. If you have the tools, you can fix anything. If you have a cell phone and the tools, man, you know what I mean? Or you're going to just pay someone to operate your tools to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're fixing your car, for instance, it's just a thing you have to do. And growing is a thing you have to do too. Of course, it has to be fine tuned for the space that you have, and there's definitely a learning curve there, for sure. And it's sometimes disheartening, especially at the beginning.
Yeah, it is.
But if if you get into it, just because it's something you've maybe thought was kind of a cool idea, and you're at a point in your life where you have a little spot where you can experiment a little bit, it's so easy to do. I mean, like, my first go with this, I remember, was like I got a 3x3, and I put 4 or 5 gallon pots in there, and I got clones, and it just worked. And I was like, holy shit, like that's so sick. And I bought the gear like at the time, like on like Amazon or some shit, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It because it was never available to me before, and I support shops as much as humanly possible.
Yeah.
Like I go to grow shops for anything that matters, right? Anything that's not screws and fucking parts for something. But when I first started and first learned it, I was just like, I was told that I was smoking bud that was grown with water. You know what I mean? And I was like, what? And it was so good, and I was like, that can't be real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had no idea, dude. I had no idea that cannabis could be grown just like on a small scale, just with water, and
That's
be
cool.
that good. I had never smoked bud that good, and like, I mean, maybe I had like of course I had, let's say, like in the past, from time to time, but like this was like consistent. Like anytime I got bud from the homie, it was like, holy shit, the
Yeah.
best bud. So that's what, and then he kind of, told me I was like, how are you growing? And told me, soil, living soil,
Yep.
no-till, water, man. Water, like I say, water and worms, man. Water and worms, dude. That's all you need, and light.
It's a good
And
recipe.
so that my first grow was the 5 gallon, but I was using Coast of Maine, Platinum Growers Mix, amazing soil in my opinion. That's what I was using then because it was at the store and I could go get it, and the the local agricultural store, oh, the growers love this stuff. Right on. That's what I need then. So
Yep.
like, and it totally worked. Um, but then I decided to do the whole living soil thing, which is not a whole thing. It sounds like a whole thing, and it's kind of a process to start. But like once it starts, it just goes and goes and goes and goes, and the herb like just like the homie told me, with water, I'm creating, in my opinion, some of the strongest, best bud I've ever smoked. And it doesn't even matter that I've cut plants at like 7 weeks that were all like looking like stupid and shitty, and I could tell just were like gonna waste time, and like just weren't. They just didn't like the environment, and there's nothing I can do about that. The plant, I can't change the environment too much. You have to work with your space, like you guys have talked about in your earlier episodes, which I checked out,
Yep.
which are right on. Like you just have to work within your space. So like for me, if there's a plant that doesn't like the space, I can't force that plant to like the space, and I might as well just chop it, hang it, and like put it in joints and smoke it, than have it like take up space and hope that it's going to get healthier and better. It's like, I don't know, man. It just doesn't seem like it likes it here. The strains that I love, I know love it there, and to me, that's what's important. And I guess to each grower, that's what's I think that's the most important thing. You find what you like and what works in your space, and you hold on to that. I know, Maestro, you do that, and you've been doing that for a long time, and it's been working out every time, dude. Right? Yeah, every time out of those pots.
There can be problems though,
Oh
mishaps.
yeah, but right, like, would you agree that like sometimes there's just plants that don't love your spot,
Oh yeah, that can definitely happen.
right? And that goes to the another thing that I think is really important and simple. It's really really simple, man. It's a weed. It's a plant. It's a weed. It's a that's all it is. I mean,
I
it's
want to I
simple.
want to stop you there, and I do want to say one thing. I want to say that genetics are very important.
Oh,
And
a fa-
Yeah, and like a plant that may be hurting though at first, like if you like tend the crap out of it, it might like even the ugliest, most weirdest looking plant may grow out of it. So
yeah,
yeah. I
but
mean,
it isn't worth. I mean, in my opinion, Tom, I agree with you 100%. It's not worth taking the time to grow something that's not going to perform.
if
People
you're not,
chase,
if but your
chase these
choice.
different cuts and they grow them once or twice and they say, oh, it's not growing well, so I'm going to grow it again and again and dial it in. Then that's really not how it works. Like if you grow a cut and it's not that great the first couple times you grow it, more than likely it's not going to be that great.
It totally, man. Like that's what. So like, if it on a pretty easy to digest scale, you could think about it like the like your temperate zones, right? Like north to south. Like we're like what, 7 or 8, I think, where I am. 6, 7. Somewhere in there. Like there's like the tropical to whatever, all these different zones, and
Yep.
certain shrubs don't grow in certain environments. They die. They just die. They don't grow there.
Yep.
And so that's why I was saying, like, it's a plant. You know what I mean? It's a plant. It's a plant. It grows. some plants grow some places, some plants don't grow. You know, you can force a plant to grow in a certain spot. Maybe it'll do something great. I mean, I guess like, but it's all about finding the perfect genetics that like are perfect for you, and
Right.
that's and that's perfect for what you enjoy, and also what's perfect for your environment, and that can take some time, and it can be frustrating, and also learning to grow, you can, you know, blow it a lot, you can lose a lot of crops, shit can happen, mold happens, you know, bugs happen. I haven't dealt with that personally, but I've definitely seen it, and that's a bummer. Um, Definitely dealt with mold before, and that's the worst in my opinion. That's like, to me, that's like I've watched like entire crops just like had to be thrown away, just gone.
Disappear.
And when you're on a small scale, that's like devastating, you know, because you're paying for the electricity, and you're putting your time, your effort into this, and then all of a sudden it's gone. But hey, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right? Like, it's a learning process for any time. You know, if it's a mold issue that you had, now you know that that's going to be an issue in your space, man. Don't allow mold to be in your space.
Yep.
Make the environment not able to support mold. That mold.
And learn while you're on a small scale, so that way when you get to a big scale, you don't have to learn that lesson.
Totally, man. And then you go in on a big scale and you just get it.
Yep.
And hey, that goes right back to me going and taking photographs at a place and understanding that putting on booties and like a hairnet sometimes is totally normal. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like
Yeah,
that's
it's
like that.
definitely 100% normal.
Yeah, and it should be, right? So like, but I don't know. We're kind of getting off on a tangent. I was trying to bring it back to like photos somehow, but um, it's hard to do that, you know, like when we start talking about growing and everything,
No,
because
it's
we all
good.
love.
We were talking about how you grow, and obviously you grow in soil. Do you use LED lights?
Yes.
Right.
For me, I never dealt with like high pressure sodium lights, anything like that. I never did, because that was like, excuse me, pre LEDs and kind of pre my time of growing. I couldn't afford fixtures like that. I couldn't afford to cool a room that had fixtures like that growing. For me, it would have meant like either like stealing or somehow like acquiring streetlights, right? Or like some shit like that. Like that. This, I mean, you laugh, but like that's what I don't know, man. When I so when I started, it was like the beginning of like the LED thing, and they were affordable, and I could do it, dude. So I was like, fuck it, that'll be my space, because I'm creating my space, but that's what I can afford in my space. And I did, I learned a lot about like pretty quickly, like with LEDs, because they were cheap, right? So you could buy a couple different kinds of lights and see what worked. Or like, this one sucks. Oh, well, it's like in a box somewhere. that one, that one works good. Cool. I keep that one. Then it goes in a box, you know what I mean? But maybe someday that one will come out of the box again and be used in like a different application, maybe for clones or whatever, something small.
What you make do with what you have and what you can afford, and what you can
Yep.
afford is budget LEDs, a small tent, some decent
Yep.
soil, and some good genetics.
And someone, you know, and someone to answer some questions, you know what I mean? To like, but these days, like, I mean, this is kind of certainly pre like Instagram or anyone having grow shows that I was following, at least on like YouTube or anything. I didn't really watch YouTube, but now you can just like easily go, like, there's plenty of resources out there that to fucking teach you how to grow amazing plants, using soil and water and worms.
Yeah.
Love it. Water and worms and good genetics. I mean, the good genetics though, like, so like that's another thing. Like, good genetics, I guess, is subjective because there can be good genetics that are great that grow at this person's farm, but they die if I put them in that tent. I doubt they would die, but you know what I mean? Like, they just
No,
wouldn't
there's
do.
definitely, yeah, and different plants like different environments. That's truthful.
So,
When I say quality genetics, it's part of it is knowing what's going to work in your environment, and part of it is knowing the lineage and the profile and what kind of medicine works for you.
and these days, I think we're fortunate. People like you have done a lot of work breeding. My mentor, Ben, he's done a lot of work breeding, and I know Maestro has too, to create genetics that you know what you're getting. You know what I mean? At
Yeah.
least as far as like a plant goes, and it's still, I'm gonna say, it's still a toss up whether or not it's gonna work in your grow application because every grow is a little bit different. However, the most universal that I've seen, and I think most people would agree with, um, is like a no-till soil environment is going to be the most consistent. So if I have genetics that I've bred, and grown in, my little tent, and you've smoked them several times, different rounds, you know what I mean? And you get some seeds and you put them in your soil, both of you, you're both going to get a similar product because you're putting it in your soil, you know what I mean? You're putting it in a similar environment, a similar grow environment. You're not pumping it with different nutrients than I was. So
And there,
that's
there is a lot to say about terroir and flavor profiles based on your inputs, and if you're running salt nutrients, everything tastes like Athena, that whole thing. I think there is an advantage to breeding in a living soil type situation for organic or natural production. I believe that.
absolutely 1,000% believe it because that's just agreeing basically with exactly what I said.
Yep.
What I believe. I'm sure Maestro believes it too. Like if you're it's the most stable, similar, let's say, base for an experiment. Like that's going to be like one of your variables. That's like a near constant in when it could be all like this. Because like you're all these different methods of growing in cocoa or growing whatever, um, those are going to be different results for
But there
sure.
there are a lot of different soil recipes and different inputs, and people use different microbes, and depending where you are, you have different microbial colonies.
Correct. Coming from a dude who's super on the budget, it can be really really inexpensive to do. It can be really really fun. And the one thing that sucks is the whole patience part of growing. You know what I mean? Uh, I'm pretty impatient, and so like dealing with like you can figure out a perpetual cycle, which if somebody dedicates themselves to growing, even for a few rounds, they'll figure out how to get a perpetual cycle going if they have a few different environments that they can create. Um, but still, it's like I just want to smoke this bud, and it's like still got a couple of weeks to go, and like what
And make sure you wait.
dude, I'll chop off a bottom nug like every time and just let it dry out to smoke it because I want to. And whatever, man, it's mine. I'm not. I don't. I don't grow. I don't grow for anyone other than myself and for
Yeah,
you guys, for
you're
my
growing
homies,
your
and anyone who I ever meet that wants to try some fire bud. I usually have some.
The licorice. Is that what you?
Fucking the best. That's not that, you know, I can't take credit for breeding my my bro bred that, and we've been holding on to that. That's in-house only. And Maestro's got some in-house onlys too, and you keep those ones close to the heart. But then there's the Larry berries that everybody loves. Rhode Island, there's Larry berries out there right now in dispensaries from different grows in Rhode Island, which is fucking sick.
Sick.
Because that's because it's very similar to your Jersey juice in the sense that every single time, no matter if you grow it, no matter how you grow it, it's always awesome. You know, like it's gonna have different characteristics, whether it's grown in soil or whatever, but it's always awesome. You know, and so I've been really stoked to see that. I think in Massachusetts too, and then there's some cuts up in Maine that are gonna be doing. There's gonna be some hash runs from some cuts up in Maine, which is fucking so sick.
That's amazing.
So really, yeah, really excited about that. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Very nice. Do you have any new projects coming up you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I'm gonna tell you about the Chillums real fast.
Tell me all about your chillum work.
All right. So like, when I don't know how old you are when you're a freshman in high school. How old are you?
When you're a
How old is-
freshman in high school?
Yeah, man. How old is somebody when they're a freshman?
I think like 14.
Cool. So I was like 14, right? And I was the kid who was like hanging out, and people who know me will know the high school I went to had a lot of herb smoked at it. And I would hang out, of course, with like the hippies, and because there was like, it was like back in the day, this would have been like 97, 98. So there were like, it was the tail end of like the whole like massive like fish head like thing. There was like the hippies, you know what I mean? Like a lot of hippies around, and like that was cool. Like I get along with everybody in that sense, and especially when it comes to weed. It's like, oh, you got good weed, that's sweet, sign me up. So I learned there was a dude had a chillum, you know, like I don't remember exactly what it was. It was small, and that's how we smoked. We smoked out of the chillum traditionally, like this, with your hand, and we all just sit in a car and pass that shit around, and it was awesome. I just thought it was really cool because you weren't like sharing directly, and I'm not a germaphobe or anything like that, but I think that there's just like some kind of like nice way of like being able to like smoke in the community without actually touching the pipe. And also, I don't know, there's just something about it that's like that connects you with herb in a way. And so fast forward to like whatever, modern times, and Maestro, I'm still smoking your banana. It keeps going out because it's so good. So good. Fast forward to modern times, and there's chillums around, and we were all hanging out. I had seen some of the chillums online that some of the guys from overseas are making that are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, those are so sick. I want one so bad. And like, I saw how much they were. I was like, I can't afford that shit. I'm poor. Like, I still am, you know? Although, I think at this, well,
You're a rich man. You're a rich man in culture.
So are you.
Thank you.
So I had been looking now for like years at like every event for a Chillum, dude. Like at the huge one in Boston that we always go to. Why am I spacing on it? Maestro. Boston.
Freedom Rally.
Freedom Rally. So I couldn't find Chillums that were like at all, honestly, other than the one homie we all know, the old man of the mountain. He has Jonas Chillums available, which are so sick. They're so sick.
They're sick.
What's up?
I said, yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah. So like, but I can't afford them,
Yep.
and but I did, I went to school. It wasn't pertinent, so I didn't mention this before, but so I did go to school for art. I went to art school for whatever it's worth. I don't really believe in art as anything, but I was a graphic designer, but I went in, also minored in studio art and basically had a double major, and spent a lot of time in doing sculpture, ceramics, all through college. So that's been a huge part of my life. Like, I love sculpture. I love it. And I've always made things because I haven't been able to afford to buy them throughout my entire life. That's just how it's been. Like, my parents wouldn't get me the thing, so I had to make it, and it was embarrassing, but whatever. I had sort of the thing. I'm sure there's people that can relate to that. And so, yep, Maestro's DIY like me. So anyway, I was like thinking about Chillums for a long time, and then randomly, I don't know why, but like I just like pulled the plug, and I asked a friend of mine who is a jeweler if he had a kiln at his shop, and he's like, I have an extra. He's an amazing jeweler, and so he gave me his old kiln, which is really small,
Wow.
but it does the job, you know. But it's really small, and like but for me, honestly, it feels like it's perfect because it's like a beginner, thing. I'm a fucking complete novice when it comes to this shit. Like, people who want to make chillums, like, it is not an easy thing to do. You can definitely go apprentice for somebody, which I would highly encourage you to do if you're somebody who is an artist and wants to learn how to do anything. Like, just like you would for glass blowing, right? Like, you're not gonna just have like a glass blowing setup in your fucking garage and start like blowing glass and lighting your house on fire. I mean, some people might do it because they can't afford to go or take the time to go apprentice, but I'm pretty sure you can go apprentice with some pretty amazing artists, and I would encourage people to do that. I did not do that. I taught myself how to make chillum. So, long story short, I made them, and I, on purpose, I didn't look for reference, right, at any of like, I've smoked out of some of Jonas Chillums, beautiful pieces. So I've seen what they look like, but I don't have the memory to be able to remember every part of it, like different parts that where different glazes may or may not be, things like that, different ways that the actual physical shape is made. I've never taken a mental note of that, but I've seen them, you know what I mean? And then, as well as the stones inside, which are arguably more important, if not just as important as the chillum itself, which is, the filter for the inside. You guys have smoked these before, so real quick, I don't know if you guys can see this.
Yeah,
This is
please
one.
explain for everyone else like the parts of the chillum and
So it's honestly, it's like super basic. It's like the most basic pipe. You got everybody seen them. People call them one hitters. I mean, that's fine. You can call a pipe whatever the hell you want, but this one, I didn't clean this or anything. I kind of just made this stone. It's not, it wasn't really perfect, and neither is this pipe, which is why I'm smoking out of it. I'm, going to sell whatever ones are like, 100%. But this one works great. I mean, and as you can see, I mean, it's a tube.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see light through.
So how do you clean that?
Well, you can clean it with a brush. Um, let's see. I have a brush right here, like a brush like this. You could um, anything that's not too abrasive, because there you don't need to um, you don't need to really scrub it, if that makes any sense. The clay is polished to the point where um, the it's gonna get somewhat stained over time. At least this round of these that I did, which is fine to me. I mean, I think in most people it's kind of just looks like the inside of a dirty pipe, but like whatever. Um, but you can also like glaze the inside. But you just it's real easy to keep clean, because I mean you just look through it, you can see if there's anything like stuck on the sides or whatever, and you just like blow it out, brush it out. If you want, a little bit of alcohol is not going to hurt it. It's clay. I mean, clay is the most like inert basic thing in the whole world, which is another reason why I was like totally into this, because it just seems like safe. You're
Mm.
smoking out of something that's like totally natural. It's been fired, it's been glazed. And then so you have the filter stone, and the pipe. You just drop the filter stone in the pipe, and then you pack it up with some bud, some more Maestro's bud.
And how
Running
do
out.
you have room on top for some hash, or what do you normally do?
So some people, so that's an interesting topic, right? It I would consider this a hash pipe to me, and I'm gonna put hash in here with some of this flour, but we were smoking out of this a couple weekends ago and just filling it up with bubble hash, and it was totally fine. Just smoking full bowls of bubble hash over and over and over out of it.
Well,
So
I'm sure I know where you are. You were at our friends at Nature Summit.
I may have been visiting with our friends up north. Yes,
Amazing,
good,
amazing.
good folk. Good.
It's the only people that I've ever met that straight up smokes hash in joints. They don't put any flour in them, and they would smoke a chillum just straight hash. Nobody else does that.
Oh no, no! You can smoke a chillum full of just hash. I mean, they're made for smoking. Like I had smoked just hash out of one before,
Yo, I'm saying they're amazing.
and opium. I mean, they were like, I mean, if you want to like really get into it, like these are like from like the East, India. Like people were smoking all sorts of shit.
Everyone I've ever smoked with a chillum mixed it with either tobacco or cannabis with hash with a hash product, like 50-50, you know?
Yeah. So this is where's my camera? There it is. So this is some bubble hash on there.
Okay.
Uh, Pipe is like super simple. This is like one of the smaller ones, but it had like a couple of like little imperfections that I wasn't like totally cool with, and
Very nice.
I, I didn't want to sell, so like I had to pick one to keep and smoke out of. Um, and yeah, so I started this project basically because I couldn't find one. I had to make one because I'm poor. But what I was going to say earlier is I bet I've spent as much as it would have cost to buy one, definitely in material, especially, well, I got the kiln, which was, it's on loan, but like, if I had to pay for that, this wouldn't be happening, you
Well,
know?
luckily you had the ability to do this amazing project and now turn it into more of a long-term project and see how it works out. I mean, I think it sounds amazing just to keep honing your craft in and making amazing pipes.
Man, it's going to take a lot of practice, but like, I'm into it. Photography was the same thing.
Those look
Learning how to take photographs, like it took years. I'm still learning. I'm learning constantly. You
Yeah.
never stop learning. And with art, like you just it takes so long to even sometimes get it to a starting point. Like, I'm not a painter, but I can imagine if I wanted to start painting and really like put time into it, it'd probably take a good, like few months to get to even the point where I was painting something that I thought was like all right,
Yeah, I know all about that.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at with these. I mean, I'm at the point now where I'm experimenting with some more stuff. I kind of like figured out a couple of the little like tricks, but I still haven't like asked anyone how to do this shit. It would probably be helpful, but um it's not a question of authenticity. I just did this
Well,
because I wanted to, and because I couldn't afford them.
well,
That's it. And I've always enjoyed making things, and like I wrote a message to Jonas over there, just asking him, a couple of quick like little questions, and he was such a nice, approachable guy, you know. And I told him my history with the pipes. I was like, hey man, like I smoked out one of these when I was a kid, basically, and been looking for one ever since. And I can't afford yours, so I made these. I just want to let you know that I wasn't like ripping, I didn't just see this and like want to do what you were doing, I don't
Well,
know. Art is,
I think he should be flattered if you did see what he was doing and you wanted to do what he was doing. Number one, and number two, there's many people that make all kinds of smoking devices and all kinds of products. You know, so I think it sounds amazing what you're doing. Meister, did you have something you were going to say?
they look really nice. I mean,
we're gonna get you one, Maestro. Don't worry about it, bud.
they look
I'll,
awesome.
I'll make a signature version for you.
Fire.
Same with you, Wicked. We'll
Dope.
get a
I can't
Wicked.
wait to use it, bro. I'll
I
light up on this
gotta
channel
get
for the first time.
one for you and Forrest. I gotta get everybody one, a special one for each of you, which is nice. That's another thing. That's one thing that I do think is like pretty cool about the Chillum thing is like this first batch I made with a glaze that I kind of just put together and put. I mean, it looks really sick and it works really well, but now I can like experiment more. That was like the push to like make sure I could do it. So like I'm really right at the beginning of this whole thing. Like now I'm just like experimenting, and I know what'll work or what'll break in the kiln.
The downstem, the stone on it, I was mad impressed by that. That looked like so. I bought stuff from like Alverman and bought stuff from Jonas. I've had like 10 chillums. Mm.
Oh
They're expensive and they break, so like you can't keep
yeah,
up. But I've literally, like you're saying, dude, like been tempted to almost make them out of the sheer fact that I want them but can't afford them.
I
Uh,
know you and I are very alike when it comes to that. Like just you got to do what you got to do, kind of thing.
well, they're really freaking nice, but those are really amazing. Like, I would just keep at it if I was you, because honestly, they look amazing, and I don't know what it takes to sculpt them and stuff like that, and how workable it is, but got my mind running. Oh, you'll have to tell me. You'll have to tell me later. Later, let's
Yeah,
see,
I
Chris.
see a collaboration in the future.
There's always collaborations. We all collaborate. That's an important part of this whole story. Supporting each other from the very beginning has been a really cool thing, man. All of us, for no real reason, for no real benefit, support each other. I mean, it's just the benefit is that we all support each other. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
that's the benefit. The benefit is to have some homies behind you.
But not like an individual like thing. Like the collective is what is most important. Like we all support each other in like inherently. Just whenever we're doing shit, like we do, like we have for years, which is really cool. I don't think any one of those things has been like better or worse than any of the others. They've all been kind of good because of the circle of everybody just inherently, supporting their friends and the people that support them back. It's really cool, you know, like the world is such a like stupid argumentative place.
Oh, I was going to say a beautiful place. It sounded like you were about to say it was a beautiful place because we have all this beautiful connection with each other and, sharing many things. But the one common thread that we all have is this plant.
And this plant has been, I think, for a lot of us, no matter where we were in our life when we were introduced to it, we have all gotten, we're all now like on like a same level or a similar level. A lot of times we'll meet, I'm sure you have, I'll meet like older people who I would like never think I was going to talk to, and then I end up talking to, and they're the nicest people, and we end up in like a great conversation about, starts with cannabis, ends with cannabis, maybe, I don't know. It's usually at an event or something where there's cannabis involved, and I would ordinarily not be be in like a conversation with this person, and then it's a great conversation, and you learn something from everyone you meet. It's great. It's a great, the plant has created a great community of people who want to learn and want to help other people. You know, they want to learn and they want to teach.
We want to just be better.
Yeah, yeah. So to be better, you're just, yeah, you're always listening, because everybody has a little piece that's going to be really important to your space. Even growing, but going back to growing, I am in conversations constantly with people who are way over my head in every single sort of way, and it could be intimidating. Uh, but but I just realize I'm never going to be at that level. You know what I mean? And that's not me. But I can learn just by like listening, and then I'll hear like a little piece and a little snippet, and then I'll see that happening, in my grow. I'll be like, oh wow, that's what they were talking about. Or like, I'm researching this and I see a word that I had learned, whatever, in some conversation that was just a piece of a conversation that was way over my head, or was like I was talking about earlier, these conversations where no one's talking too much, even though I've been talking too much this entire time.
You haven't been talking too much, but we are going to wrap this up. It's been a great episode. I appreciate you coming on. This was episode 2.1, interview with the Nugographer. Yo, Maestro, you have anything else to say before we head out?
Should we show him his song?
Camera check, chillum check, clip check. Ready, go, let's reconnect, I'm focused. Stabilize, try come overcome. Stabilize, try comes overcome. My eyes shine just like the sun, so fine, the day has just begun. Flash, flash, click, flash, next I'm about to open up my stash, cause I focus better when I'm buzzed, and I do it just because. This sticky dank, that Larry Green, this licorice is mighty mean. My chillums packed close to the top, but there's more room for some fine hash to feel the boom vibrate. I feel the room, I capture it, I start to zoom in the moment. Might wonder why, but you'll thank me later. Cause I'm that guy, nugget, that's Nuggy. I'm out, but you'll thank me later. Cause I'm that guy, nugget, that's Nuggy. I'm out, but you'll thank me later. Cause I'm that guy, nugget.
That wasn't really part of this. Yo, Tom, do you have anything to say before we head out?
Oh, there was one last very short thing. One thing that the only thing when you're growing and your plant is finishing up, take a photo of it, because that's all you're gonna have of it.
Yeah.
That's fucking it, man. It's gonna be gone. You're gonna smoke it, and even if you grow a clone of it, it's not the same plant, and it may not have even like that similar one little quality that you thought was really cool looking. So, I mean, I do what I do because of that, and I think, I mean, I know I get hired because of that,
Yeah.
because people see that in their plant, and that's cool. And some people can afford that, some people can't. So it's the pay scales, whatever. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. But going back to not a lot of money is your phone. Just use your phone, take a photo, and that way you'll have like a memory that you did it. You know what I mean? And you can think back to like, oh, like I grew this sick like blueberry fucking kush, and it was like amazing back in the day. Or someone being like, I grew like OG like white widow, like the actual real white widow, look like this. And then you have a photo.
Um, Not many people took a lot of photos back in the day, but I have a few friends whose dads grew, and they always took these crazy photos of themselves in front of these like huge,
Monster.
like 20-foot tall pot plants. And then
Oh,
there's another homie of mine, Vester, who I got this cut of the garlic bud from, and he's got a picture of his girl like spread eagle out in the field with these big long spears of garlic bud. Like that's the only picture he has of garlic bud. Pretty sick.
that's really sick. And like, you're right. I mean, I think a huge part of photos is they weren't accessible. I mean, shit. Cell phone cameras weren't a thing when I was a kid. I don't have any photos of myself doing the things that I used to do. Just is what it is. But like now, it's really accessible and it's really easy. You can download apps to turn your camera or turn your phone into a manual camera. You can teach yourself how to use a camera that way. If you get really into it, you can buy some gear. That's cool. Um, it can get really addictive and very expensive. Make sure that you're aware of that. But I mean, you don't. It most importantly, I think it's just people are proud of what they do, so that they should take at least a picture of it, so that they can remember it. Be like, I grew this. It was awesome. And then
Yeah.
be like, cool, I grew this and this, and everyone can have a conversation, and the wheel keeps turning, and the circle keeps spinning.
It's been a great episode. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Peace. Keep it real.